Hello, welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection between humans and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Yeah. Hi, and we have a guest with
We
us,
have a
Guthrie.
special guest.
And do you want me to, introduce this person?
Yes.
Because, I know that I enjoy trying to learn languages and accents and pronunciations, and you don't enjoy that as much.
Oh, so, no, I do enjoy it. I'm just bad at it.
All right, well,
I'll do the title though.
Okay, I'll do the name, you do the title, and then our guest will tell us if we screwed everything up royally. So we have as a guest today Johan Berndtsson, and his title is.
So he is the co-founder and head of In Use, and I can already tell you when he said it, it sounded different from when you said it.
I know. Hi, Johan.
Yeah. Hi guys. How are you?
All right, now would you pronounce your name for everyone so at least they hear it correctly?
Well, it's Johan Berndtsson.
Johan
Berndtsson. I think you did a good job, Susan.
Yeah, I did an okay job for an American.
Well, no. Or for those tonal things don't exist in English, so don't feel too bad.
I know, that's what I said. Anyway.
Well, you said an American, but.
Oh, English. I did a good job in English.
Yes.
Anyway, welcome to our podcast. And we're talking to you from Varberg, Sweden, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Where Guthrie and I have been because we came to visit you.
Yeah, super nice. Last summer. And I've been meaning to ask you, did you ever make that potato casserole that I hashed together a recipe for you? But did you try to make it?
Yes, I did. It wasn't quite as wonderful as when you guys made it, but it was very good. So Johan had us over. We were doing a little tour of Sweden last June, almost exactly a year ago. And he had us over to his place in Varberg and made us this. I still talk about this to people because the first thing you did when we got there was you made you gave us a what you called, I think, a typical midsummer lunch.
Yep.
Which was herring, pickled herring, and these little small potatoes and sour cream and some kind of liqueur that was great. I don't even know what that was.
It had various herbs and spices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was snaps.
Okay.
Sweet snaps. Skåne, I think. Skåne.
And then we went and walked around Varberg, which is a really interesting small city that for those of you who don't know Sweden, I mean, for those of you who do, this is probably boring, but for the rest of you, the city is on the sea, kind of facing Denmark, and
it's facing west.
Yeah. Well, I just remember the Denmark thing because we walked around that very old.
So it doesn't necessarily. So that is geographically. I'm going to protest because Denmark would be to the south. Right. But if there was an invasion of wooden ships from Denmark,
yes, that's what I meant.
They would come from
there.
Yes.
So we walked around that fortification from like the 1200s or something.
Yep.
Very old building, was beautiful. It was interesting and beautiful. Then we went back and they fed us more food. They did this gigantic cookout, and it was really wonderful. And they had this, you guys had this potato casserole dish that was unbelievable. And I emailed later and asked for the recipe and was told that they didn't have one. They just made it, but they figured one out for us, sent it to us. And the reason it was so wonderful is it's full of cream. That's what I decided. Potatoes and cream, right?
And garlic, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And some garlic and salt and pepper.
It's great. Yeah. So everyone listening to the podcast should show up at Johan's house, and they'll make a big batch. But anyway, that was we really enjoyed visiting you and meeting your family there. And let's talk just a little bit about we got so much stuff we can talk about. You live and often work out of Varberg, but your co-founder and head of In Use, which is not based in Varberg, really, right?
No, so we have 3 offices in Sweden, Malmö, Gothenburg, and Stockholm, and then a very, very tiny office in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, where Guthrie happened to be yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was.
passing through the airport.
Yeah.
And you guys do well. All right. Give us the. I mean, you could probably talk about this for a long time, but give us a little introduction to the company. You started it. You're a co-founder. So when was it that you started it, and what does the company do? And then we'll launch from there.
Yeah, so back in 2002, I started together with some friends, and I'm guessing your audience is quite versed in UX and service design. So
some of them are
less than you'd think, actually.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we get a mix.
So that's sort of the core of what we do anyway. So we try to provide our clients with services that's sort of a mix between business design, service design, and UX design. We work both with the digital side, and also now since November of last year, we also have a lot of industrial designers and close access to architects and other interesting people to work with. So applying our skills in a pretty broad context.
And I know that you have some, you have at least one large and maybe some other clients in the U.S. I assume you have clients in Sweden. Is it mainly, Sweden and then a little bit U.S., or are you all over Europe, or?
Well, it's mainly companies based in Sweden. So in the US, we work mostly with Panasonic. In Sweden, we have a lot of different companies. Most of the big ones, like Sony, for example, for like IKEA, and yeah, the other guys.
And the other thing you do is this wonderful conference, which is actually how we met you.
Mm-hmm.
Called From Business to Buttons, which you just recently had your 2018 conference, right?
Yeah, we did. We had a fantastic time, this time at the Circus, rather a nicer venue than when we had you over, actually. So
I thought the venue we were at was really nice.
Well, you should check out the movies from this one. So there's this really lovely movie with Yard Spool that we just released. He did a great job, as always, capturing the audience attention for almost a full hour, never letting them go for a second. So
wow.
Can include the link in the show notes, I guess.
All right. Yeah, we'll definitely include that link. And it's a great conference. We really enjoyed being there. You guys treat your speakers like royalty.
I would recommend for our listeners who would like to know more. We actually did a podcast, I don't know, a year or two ago, summarizing our trip to business.
We did.
To business and buttons in particular. But that was not the trip last year, but the trip 2 years ago. So
yeah.
So no need to summarize. They should just go listen to that entire podcast.
Yeah, we talked about the speeches and everything else. So, and we made some wonderful friends over there that have continued to be friends. So it's you guys definitely rank.
You mean Al Gore or?
Yes, Al Gore.
Elle and I play. I was gonna say
ping pong.
Okay, yes, ping pong.
No, you don't.
Do you guys know like what squash or handball is that? Do you know what that sport is?
Oh well, it's two different sports, at least here. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys have both of those. I didn't know if that was some weird.
Were you about to say you play squash with Al?
Yeah, me and Al we do squash Wednesdays at about 6:30.
No, I have enjoyed since that trip and the visit to the conference 2 years ago. I very much enjoyed saying things like, Yes, I was the opening speaker at a conference, and Al Gore was the closing speaker. And I think there was, and at one point there was this photo, a screenshot at the website where you had like a photo of me next to a photo of Al Gore. I definitely got a screenshot of that. So that was very.
You were both fantastic on that conference. So
you're just
so happy to have you both.
Thank you. We were glad to be there. So, do you know anything about next year's conference yet, or are you still just recuperating from this year's?
No, we're actually planning it. So we're about to set on a date, and I'm actually, if I may use your podcast to ask people to send me recommendations for speakers.
Oh, great! Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Where should they send them?
They should send them to my email address that you could include in the show notes.
We'll include it in the podcast notes.
So what's most often quite hard is to find speakers from Asia, Africa, and South America. So I would be especially interested in people wanting to talk about business design, service design, user experience design from those areas.
Asia, Africa, or South America.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm open to other suggestions as well, but those are
the ones that are hard to find. Yeah. You're plugged into U.S. and Europe and UK much, yeah. Probably. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll think about that. We might actually know one or two people from some of those other continents. So yeah, if you got anybody who's listening have ideas for great speakers for the conference, let you know. And you're probably going to do it next April?
Yes, sometime mid or actually maybe earlier in April, so a bit earlier than we have done previously. But yeah.
Although we did enjoy when we came over the second time, which was a year ago, and we were there in June. And I remember, because, I live in central Wisconsin, which is pretty far north. But I remember we were in Stockholm last June, and we were in the hotel and still getting over jet lag and stuff. And I think it was late at night, and we were doing some work. And I looked up and I realized it was 11 o'clock at night, but it was still light out.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't realized just, how far north you are. So that's kind of, if you have a conference in April, then you don't get to experience the fun, almost light all night long.
That's true, but in June, all the Swedes are heading off to vacation. I won't get to that until mid-August. So.
Yeah.
it's a bad time to have a conference.
Yeah. So you had mentioned before we got going when we were doing sound checks, you had mentioned something that I'd like to ask you about, because you had said you'd listened to our podcast that we did recently on the culture of trust.
Yeah.
And that I wrote down a little note which said, focus on money / value-driven company. Yeah. So tell what was you had some kind of thought or reaction to that podcast episode. Tell us about that.
Well, basically that the reasoning is very much about how to maximize the profit or the gains. And I think the best way to do that is not to maximize on the profit or the gains, but instead to have a very firm core values that you try to drive your business towards. And when you are successful, you will have more earnings than you would have had if you'd only try to optimize on the money.
You're talking to people from the U.S., but I think the culture here is a little different than Sweden. So give us an example of what you mean. So, just give us an example of, either a real or a fictitious company and how and what value driven would be.
Yeah. So we started this company in 2002, and we've always optimized and maximized to make as big a difference as we can in 3 different dimensions: for people and for businesses, for our clients, and also for society when we have an opportunity to work with those kinds of projects. And for us, that becomes very much of a North Star, if you like, or something to guide all decisions, both big and small. And I think that helps you from trying to make like quick wins when we make short-sighted decisions to optimize on money, and instead trying to bring or build long-term value for both you and your company, your colleagues, and for everybody that you're working with. And I'm pretty sure that if we had tried to do this in this field, sort of aiming for the money, we had never gotten this far. We would have stumbled somewhere halfway, and we would have fallen. So.
Well, there's a, in the United States, I definitely agree. And if you look at successful companies in the United States, a lot of them, they often, in the most profitable companies, they often follow that exact idea that if we get our business right, then the money will appear. Yeah. And the best example, I believe, is Amazon, which, Susan had Amazon stock from back in the early days, and they would send out the investor reports. And
I still have Amazon stock.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, I mean, how many years did it?
Well, I made the mistake. I bought it when they went. I bought it with the IPO and then sold it.
Sold it. Well, yeah,
that was the big mistake.
Well,
but then I did buy it again, so I still have it. Yes.
But I mean, they famously did not make a profit for how many years?
A long time.
A decade?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
So yeah, they continually lost money, and they said, hey, listen, we're making this business system function as best we can, and they're a little different because their job is to, move things around. But like we don't care. We're not going to care. Of course, now they're one of the largest and most profitable companies in the world. But
all right. But I have some questions about this.
Yes.
I have questions about this because, so there's I have kind of 2 different sets of questions. One is when we talk about being value driven, are we talking about, if you take Amazon as an example, and I don't know, I've actually done a little bit of work for Amazon, but I cannot say that, I totally know what their corporate values are and what they, say they are, and when you come as an employee, what you believe their values are, or any of that. But if we just look for a second at, we can say, well, they're, they weren't just about making money in the short term. They were establishing they were really focused on the business and the algorithms and, what would make them succeed in their core business, whatever they believed that was. That's like one set of values. But it's different to have values which say things like, we're going to, make the world a better place by doing this, or we're going to provide, a special human-centered workplace. There's like business values, and then there's human-centered values, which can work together but aren't exactly the same thing. That's my first question area that I'd like you guys to talk about. And then the second one is, is there a difference in this between public companies and private companies? Because in my experience, if you're a publicly held company and you have shareholders, there's very much a pressure for short-term gain. even if the people at the company know that, they need to make certain decisions for the long term, there's always that pressure to create profits for the next quarter.
Yeah. So the way we go about this anyway is that we are making a difference in three different perspectives. So when we talk about the people perspective or the human perspective, it's mainly about making everyday life easier and more fun. So in all the different design work we do, that's what we always try to optimize. And so this project will this help people in any way? Then we could take it on, and if it wouldn't, then we won't. And we don't do any work with weapons or with those kinds of companies either. And we also believe that if we're going to say that we are making a difference, then we also need to measure this. So every year we measure how many people's lives we have affected. And 2017, that was 70 million people who are using the products and the services that we designed last year. So that's sort of one dimension for us that's important.
That's pretty cool that you actually, someone's job is to calculate that all. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's hard to sort of to actually drive anything towards anything if you don't keep track of how well you're doing. So, and the other perspective, I mean, for business or for the clients, that's much easier because that's what everybody's doing in a way. But it's as a design company with maybe a lot of people who want to work with design, but who are not always that business verse or business versatile. It's important to sort of frame all design work in what kind of business value this is providing for the client. Is this helping to increase revenue or decrease cost or increase new business or increase existing business or just increasing shareholder value? These five are just stolen from Jared Spool. That's his five categories for business. I think in Sweden we could also make a case, actually, even though I'm not sure that Jared would agree, that at least government institutions would also be driven towards creating a perceived great service for all inhabitants or the citizens. So that's sort of the second thing. Everybody who works with a project must know what kind of contribution from a business perspective that they have or have to aim towards in this project.
So what happens if someone in charge of something comes to you and says, "Hey, we got this cool project with this nonprofit that would help a lot of people." Mm-hmm. And they have like the most measly little nothing budget. Mm-hmm. How do you figure out? I mean, how do you figure out how many man hours? And I mean, you got staff to pay. You got taxes to pay.
Yeah.
How do you figure out how to balance making sure that you have the resources to implement your mission and implement the mission, even if it might not be profitable?
So basically, we implement the mission in all the assignments we select to work with all the clients we select to work with. So just because you want to do good things doesn't mean that you have to work with non-profit organizations. We do that as well, and we set aside a budget for doing that every year. It's not much, but it's something that helps us to take on a few assignments where we could actually.
So you think about it ahead of time, and then you budget accordingly, and then you can okay. So you have a firm grip on exactly where how much stuff that you can afford to do at low cost.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Sure. I mean, we are a company with 130 employees, and the what's a turnover in English? I guess $20 million. So it's a fairly large company nowadays. So we need to have a firm grip of our finances, of course, otherwise it wouldn't work. but I think my point is not it's not actually the NGOs and those kinds of organizations. It's I mean in all the assignments working for any company, you can sort of use these as a guiding principles.
Sure.
And the third dimension, we talked about people and we talked about business, and the third is for society at large. And that's, I mean, it's two dimensions, of course. It's one thing is that we, as a company and as individuals working at INEWS, we have a responsibility to act in a responsible way and to think about how we do things and what we do to be responsible towards the society.
Do you guys?
But also.
Do you guys ever do government contracts?
Yes.
So that's almost kind of perfect, where it could be both lucrative and helpful to society all at the same time.
Yeah, definitely could. Now, government they don't pay very well, but it's fun to work with anyway. So
different than the U.S. government. Those government contracts over here are often very, very, very lucrative.
Okay.
So there's a whole, I don't need to talk about the whole industry behind government contracts, but okay. So little bit different.
In Sweden anyway. Yeah. And I guess the second thing or part about the for society bit is to try to you don't have to always work with only companies that are the best in sustainability or whatever, but it's nice to work with companies who are sustainability aware and who are sort of trying to make things better in all the three different dimensions. So being able to sort of work towards helping them become more sustainable in the work we do. That's a nice thing. I mean, the smallest example would be just to help them steer away from these dark patterns in whenever you have a checkout or whatever, and talking about long-term value instead in customer loyalty and brand building instead of trying to get someone to buy something that they really don't need.
Well, I mean, it's so funny because if you go around and you talk to people who, I guess I'll say, specialize in business, go to MBA school, which is there's a do you know what an MBA is? Do they have?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah. Right. So, you get your people who study business. The smart plays, almost always they'll tell you, are long-term strategy plays. Like that's where the payoff is putting in the long-term investment in brand loyalty, customer loyalty, product development, product quality, the long-term projects. That's where the big payoffs are, and of course, a lot of businesses will focus exclusively on short-term payoffs. I mean, even in a even in a big company that's trying to, so in the United States, if you are a publicly traded company, your in your charter, in your mission, may be to make the world a better place, but it's also to maximize value to our shareholders. But even in a private company where you don't have to deal with any of that stuff, basically, have revenue reports or anything like that, you get it's the choice architecture of the director, and he just wants to get a nice bonus this year or do a good job or not get fired, and he's got a certain there are like 3 numbers that he's basically evaluated his performance on. And the numbers are usually, monetary based. And if he can make, these numbers happen, or maybe the NPS score, Net Promoter Score. That's one of the so if that goes up like 0.2 points, he gets this, big raise, or she's able to make her boss happy, or something like that, right? Yeah. But and so whatever that can happen to boost their metrics in that moment, that's what's rewarded. Whereas, of course, the smart way to do things is you'll be compensated based on what the Net Promoter Score is 2 years from now, because of the groundwork you're putting in now that then will pay off later. But of course, companies rarely focus on that long-term scale. It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Perhaps, I don't know. Of course, you get what you measure. And by the way, you should have Jared Spool on the show talking about Net Promoter Score. That's a sure hit.
Yeah. I mean, I only bring it up because basically we've just done a string of project proposals with various companies, and basically the only thing that they're concerned with is moving the Net Promoter Score up at using any hook or trick,
any means necessary.
Any means
they
necessary.
Really don't care. Just move the number up.
Move the number.
That's super interesting.
Well, it's the kind of the same as I mean, Net Promoter Score has just taken the place of other. I personally think Net Promoter Score is really brilliant. When I first learned about it, I was like, wow, that's like a really, not to say it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but to be able to boil the customer experience down to such a small question or questions, I thought was like, whoa, that's like super smart. But it doesn't mean that's...
Or super stupid if it doesn't work.
Well, exactly.
I think it's an easy thing to package and sell to management, I guess. But
they were doing cute little simple things to package and management before, and that were at least I think Net Promoter Score maybe has a chance of capturing something, as opposed to, I don't know, clicks on a page, which is usually a function of how bright the button is, and not actually whether someone wants to purchase or not. So, anyways, that's. But yes.
So, yeah. So, what you need to do, of course, is to sort of look at these core values from a business perspective. Is this about decreasing cost or increasing revenue, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And then form a hypothesis for this project. Okay, so how can this project contribute to one or several of these? And just when we started out in use, actually, I had a meeting with a CEO for a company. I noticed how he was placing me in sort of the field of the softies, working with user friendliness, etc. Yeah. So I told him, well, I hate people, but I love money. And the only way that I'm going to make you rich is to make sure that you actually care for these people and make sure that they have a great tool to work with. Otherwise, you will never get the money you dream of. So, of course, I don't hate people, and I'm not obsessed with money. So, but I think it's important sometimes to remind these some people at least that I mean we are working with people, and the only way that the goals for these companies is going to be reached is that if we can either affect their behavior in some sense or way, and the best way of doing that is often to make things work smoother or give them a better experience, etc. Make them more happy, basically. So these goals are very rarely in contradiction. I mean, it might be a matter of having a structure to convince or to prove to these people who have not realized this yet that there is a connection between this. But we have some tools for doing that really, for us, work really well.
Can I have you, just for our audience sake, can you give an example or two of what your projects look like what kind of stuff you guys are actually working on?
Yeah, sure. So let's just do one example that I think captures all of these dimensions, basically. So we're working for a pharmaceutical company, and we're working with people who have asthma and this company has
wait, what was that?
Asthma.
Oh, okay. Yes, asthma. Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So it's a breathing condition. This company has this molecule that they are selling, and of course molecules are nice to sell, but the patents run out, and of course there's pirate drugs that can come in and take a big chunk of your market before the patent runs out anyway. So there's a really strong now drive within from the pharma industry to sort of package medicine together with the services, and together with like apps and stuff. So we've been helping this company with sort of creating a service that consists of both a smart inhaler, which has some technology, and it talks to some sensors in it, and it talks to your smartphone, and so it keeps track on when you're taking the medication, and how you're taking it, etc. And you can see how you follow your progress and when you're taking the medication on your app, and at the same time your physician can also see how you use this medication, if you're using it correctly, etc. So
that's pretty cool.
In this case, yeah. So in this case, we are helping both the people with this condition to feel better, to live a more healthy life, helping them to be able to self-analyze and track back if they haven't been feeling that well, and also just to when you've been to the doctors and he asks you, oh, have you been taking your medication and the way you're supposed to? And of course, you never really know, but you say, yeah, I guess. And now, of course, you both of you have the truth or the exact way that you have been taking the medication, and you can adjust the dosage, etc. If it really needs adjusting, and not just because you have skipped your meds. And of course, from a business perspective, this is an opportunity to create a better relationship between the patient and the product, so that you won't want to switch to a generic option when it becomes available. And of course, from a society perspective, we need to keep people healthy, right? So that they don't have to go to the hospital because they haven't been taking the medication the way they're supposed to.
Absolutely.
So this brings value for people and for business and for society. So I think that's a good example of that project.
That's an excellent example. So it's like so you guys work with a lot of different companies who are doing stuff that would perhaps touch users and customers in ways that the company by itself would do a less optimal job of talking to. Is that
so most often our so some of our clients have UX and service design expertise,
but they need more expertise.
Yeah, well, sometimes yes, and sometimes they are. Sometimes our clients are really good at this. I mean, we're working with some service-oriented companies in finance, etc. And then it's mostly a matter of coming into the organization and maybe helping them with some resources, or sometimes helping them change the way they're working. So it could both be from just helping them with getting things done, and otherwise rearrange how.
Hey, I just had an idea.
But maybe more often we work with. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence.
But maybe more often we work with companies like the one I described now, where we sort of can provide a full service, and taking into account both like physical things like the inhaler and the app, and the sort of the meeting between the physician and the patient. So taking care of all these different aspects in the design work. Shoot.
All right, so I have a question. I have an idea, and it might sound a little crazy, but I'd like to get both of you guys' take on it.
Fire away.
So, well, I think sometimes over the many years of working in this field, Guthrie, we talk about the return on investment of UX, and we know that people are always interested in that topic, and we talk. It seems like we spend a fair amount of time and energy, trying to convince people in these businesses that paying attention to the user experience of your product or service, is a good thing to do, and why it's a good thing to do, and so on. And I was just thinking, as you guys were talking, maybe that's the wrong approach, and maybe we should use, what we know about human psychology and scarcity and so on. And instead of us pitching to the clients, maybe they have to pitch to us. It's like, we'll consider taking you on if you can show us that, how this is of value to your business, how this is of value to people, how this is of value to society. We have criteria of what we're going to work on, and there's some scarcity in our resources and our time, and therefore we only want to work with projects and people that are really committed to making a difference. And and then they have to pitch to us about why we should take them on as a client.
No, I like it. It's the classic. It's the classic. We're too busy for you. We are in such high demand that.
No, but I know, and I say kind of tongue in cheek about using the scarcity principle. But on the other hand, being serious about it, it's just
a matter of brand. I mean, if you can position yourself providing value like that, that's not a problem, especially if you don't want to grow. I mean, we talked about this last summer, Susan. I was sort of asking how long is the queue outside your door? I mean, you're one of the greatest UX people in the world. And I sort of imagined that you would have a 50-meter long queue of people just standing outside
Guthrie,
the door.
We're going to take that clip of him saying just that you're one of the greatest UX people in the world. Like, we're just going to take that audio clip and play it over and over, right?
And if you don't have an ambition to grow your business, like employing 100 people or so, I mean, you can just keep that line outside your door and then just select the ones you want to work with.
Yeah.
We are lucky in some sense in that way, because we mainly get our work through people contacting us.
Right.
That's how we get almost all of our work as well.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's great, of course, but we I wish that we could just pick the ones that really have an impact on society, but that's not always the case, of course.
I know, but I kind of like that approach.
But in a way, we do. You remember I talked about why we started the company, to make as great a difference that we can, or as big an impact as we can, and that also means that we as a consequence of it, that we need to grow, because we need to be more people in order to participate in all the projects that we need to be in order to make everyday life easier and more fun for people.
That's true.
So we've made that decision. So.
I remember, because I'm in charge of a lot of the businessy decisions here, though. I mean, obviously Susan has the ultimate say, but some of the smaller around the edges stuff, I kind of make some decisions. And I remember a couple years ago, she called me with, we need to be saving the world. We need to be helping humanity. And you know,
you say that now that it's a bad thing.
No, well,
no, I just think he was a little. Usually, I call with a little more small. You know, like we need to get the new video up for this course. So this just struck him as an unusual request.
You know, but so I tried. You know, and I've tried to take that to heart a little bit, and
yeah, because you do. I mean, I was serious about it.
I do know you were serious about it.
Yeah.
You know, so we've tried to. I think if we were making a lot more money, we could do a lot more stuff to help promote the holistic, positive ideals of UX, which is to make the world a better place. You know, and so we give like really steep discounts to nonprofits that, you know, corporate client, you know, if you have a good mission, we go out of our way to kind of make things work. If we have so many free courses that we just try and give away that hopefully are resources to people. But, you know, it's at a certain point, I think it's also a function of the business climate. Certainly in Silicon Valley, you know, there are all these companies and startups and initiatives to, you know, we're making a smart garbage can that uses solar power, that, you know, but like, I think in Sweden, if you're making a product that also, for example, is sustainable, that is smart, but it's also a huge selling point. That I think that will really appeal to the audience in Sweden. And that's not to say it's not a selling point in the United States, but I think it's a selling point and not a huge selling point. And so a lot of the products we get, you know, that's on the list. That's part, you know, that's one of the factors that they'd like to consider, but it's not up at the top. And so the projects that a lot of American companies come to us with don't have the opportunity to have that focus, you know, that the client is not asking for that as directly.
Sure, I mean, but you don't, I mean, we don't only work with projects or clients that has this dimension, and you don't have to, I think.
But I bet you get more opportunities to do so than we do.
Yeah, possibly, but I mean, the US is a huge market compared to Sweden. And we are 130 designers. You are 2, so you're in a much bigger market. And Susan's brand is huge on your market. So I mean, you should be able to pick and choose just those clients if you really wanted to.
You know, I do want you to know that we have not forgotten the conversation we had in your dining room about all this, and we I think we've been taking steps to figure out what that means for us, and then to implement some things differently. And we do have on our Kanban list just a general internal project that's called Conversation with Ewan. So, so just so you know,
in Asana, it's actually it's its own project.
We have it in Asana on our Kanban list, and we have details in it, and so we really.
I mean, it's only been on there for 2 years.
No, it's been on there for 1 year, and we have been working on it. Yeah.
And I'll get off your back. I'm sorry.
No, it's you have a wonderful skill and experience in making user experience work, doing high quality user experience work, and also doing it in a very successful business and that grows. And I mean, you personally, and then your company are a wonderful example of how to make UX work. And so we don't take your advice lightly at all. We definitely are, when we're still thinking about it. And I think we've done some things towards it, but we may need to move that higher up in priority on that Kanban list, Guthrie. But I have a related. Go ahead. What?
Yeah. Either. Yeah. I mean, we can. You choose. We can take this conversation off the air, or we can do a series of podcasts. This is the way that we need to change TW.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Well, hey, that would be an interesting podcast series. Well, yeah, that would be like that podcast series that was a couple years ago called Startup, where they actually you got to hear them go through it was a story about their own painful business process and how they got going. We could do that. It's like we could just record all of our conversations.
Feel free to cut this part out of the episode if you don't want.
We're not we're not scared to be vulnerable.
Yeah, we'll be open and vulnerable. I do have a question though for you about the what do you see in terms of UX staff and training? And I talk a lot with people, so I'm interested in kind of what you feel is going on in Sweden around this, because we talk with people who
they're feeling the crunch.
Yeah, where it's like we can't. Yeah, the questions like we can't find enough senior UX people, or we don't know how the best way to train UX people, or the new people coming out.
Oh, wait. Oh, that is not what I thought.
Oh, what you thought? What did you think?
Well, we keep getting projects from people from teams being like, so we have we're an agile shop and we don't have any UX people and we don't have time or resources to hire any, and so we just kind of want to smash UX in to they get 10 days to do all the UX stuff. So we want our developers to do really good UX work. So can you come just train everyone? So we're user-centered focused, but we're not going to change our process or emphasize it whatsoever.
I think
that's what I meant by smushed.
You can comment on any of this, but one thing I think I'm wondering if we're seeing a trend also. Years and years ago when usability and UX was relatively new, we did do a lot of coming in and training the programmers and developers on it, because there was no such thing as having a UX team. And then, of course, the UX grew and there were specialists. And then a lot of our work was around training and helping out the UX team. I sometimes wonder if we're seeing the pendulum go back the other way right now, because we are, Guthrie, getting a fair amount of requests for workshops in which the people at the workshop are the programmers and the developers, because they don't have a UX team, and I don't know that they're planning on having a UX team.
Or maybe they have a couple people, but those people have multiple roles.
Right. Anyway, so Johan, we just threw a whole bunch of stuff at you. You can comment on any of it.
Okay, so a couple of thoughts. And first, the future is always already here. It's just unevenly distributed. So the trend is definitely towards what Jared calls infused, where UX is infused in organizations. So if you give in his example Disney 17 years, they can go from terrible UX to something like the armband you get at Disney World. So when we have clients on all these different development stages, maturity levels, or what you want to call it, and of course they are open to or possible to move to a different place to a certain degree. This is basically development psychology, Vygotsky, zonal proximal development, etc. So how far can you take an organization that's on this certain level without without challenging them too much or trying to get them to take too big a step.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just the first analysis. Whenever you talk to a client, okay, what level of maturity are they on? What kind of services would benefit them at this stage? And don't try to take too big steps, and don't either just cater to if they have the wrong setup when they come to you, say we want this, then you can't of course just sell them what they ask for. You have to sort of understand their real needs and then suggest something that would give them benefits from where they are. So we see both the kind of clients that you describe, where they haven't yet realized that they need UX as something in their core, and then of course, as I talked about earlier, like the finance sector, where they're today very mature and they have big teams internally, and then sometimes it's also sort of almost infused in all the different parts of the company, and of course there are different services that they need help with at these different stages.
Yeah, I at one point years ago, I had put together a chart where you could kind of rate your own, rate your UX maturity. Mm-hmm. It's actually not that hard to do, right? I mean, in terms of what are the factors, and then it actually was really useful, because then you could, sit down with a client, you could go through, you could figure out what, I think we had level 0, 1, 2, 3 or something like that. We might have had 4 levels. And then based on wherever you were and how you answered the questions, it became really pretty clear. I mean, we could help you figure out, so what is your next step to get you to the next level? Which pieces were you missing and what you should work on. So Guthrie, I should maybe pull that back out of retirement.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
because it can be really useful.
It really can.
And maybe we can even do that, online, and have people at least start to get an idea of where they fit.
We may have to update that.
Yeah,
to the modern.
We can do that.
There are a couple of UX maturity models around as well. I mean, pick one and go with it. I think it's not that.
Well, listen, Johan, do you have one thing you're working on in the next year that you are most excited about?
So, well, there are actually a few different things, I guess. So, one thing is one of the reasons that we did this merger with ÅF, a larger company, was that they have like 600 architects and a lot of people, city planners, etc. So we are now working a lot more with trying to get that kind of business, designing experiences for parks or for.
When you say architects, you mean like actual architects, not information architects.
No, and not software architects or anything like that. I mean, real architects. So finding ways to work with them to create great experiences in the wild, in the real world. Yeah. And not only in one touch point, like creating a great app or creating a great website, etc. Right? Much more fun to work in the world of all these different sensors that are around and that you can play with in these environments, and creating great experiences in places. So that's I'm really excited about that. Another thing is it's pretty. It's not that maybe high flying, but I think design systems and all discussions about design systems is really, really interesting now. There's so many clients who have become mature enough to be able to talk about design systems beyond just having a sort of a map of all the different buttons and text, etc., on the wall, or a pattern library in their development environment. So just talking about design systems as a way of systematizing design, how the work is actually being performed to be able to do it as efficiently as possible, and to get as high quality as possible. That's also something that I think is really interesting, and that we're doing a lot of work in right now.
Yeah.
That's I mean that's some really cool. I mean that's some really cool UX work that I don't think not every UX shop gets to do cool stuff like that. You know, a lot of places just do websites, apps.
Yeah, I love websites and apps, and I think it's really fun to do those as well. And I think one of the really great things about taking on this slightly bigger perspective is that all of these places and all of these experiences, they still use websites and apps.
Right.
So the bigger perspective just means that we also get to do the websites and apps, but beyond that, we can look at the experience as a whole, which is quite nice.
Very neat. Hey, I really want to thank you for coming on and talking to us. And we always like staying in touch with you guys and seeing what you're up to next. I think probably if people have listened to any of our podcast episodes, they know that by this point, Guthrie and I are fans of Sweden. I had someone ask me recently, I'm trying to remember who this was. It was someone I didn't know very well, and they just asked, you know, what's your favorite place to visit in the world? And my answer was Sweden. So just so you know, we're fans.
Wow, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, well,
I'll make you both a potato casserole.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I'll get some
you
pickled
are
herring.
on.
So, yeah.
We are coming back for another potato casserole. I'm not kidding. Yeah, I hope that we do get over there before too long.
We actually, yeah, we almost had a gig, and then it's not happening. So we'll see if we can.
In Sweden?
Nearby.
Nearby. Okay.
Yes, but we'll see if we can't
We'll keep trying to put together some work near you and come back and visit. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
And come back.
Yeah, we'll have you back.
We're not doing anything. We're just hanging out.
Yeah, sure. Just invite me anytime. We can do some business work on the Team W next time, maybe.
Yeah, well, you know, we might do that. That would be very challenging.
No, because I'm gonna end up having to do all of that, and it's gonna be so much work for me. It sounds scary. Why can't we just keep doing what we're doing, and I don't have to do anything?
That was your comment last summer as well, and I can see that you've been successful. So.
We will post contact information and for you, Ewan, and also about the Business to Buttons conference.
Hey, is there something else you wanted to plug? Anything that people should check out?
No, I mean we are always looking for skilled UX and service design people. So of course, I put a link in the show notes to our company and also my email, of course, if there's anyone interested in joining a great team in primarily Sweden, of course. No, what else? On that note, so you remember almost a year before Trump was elected, but when it was sort of clear that he was going to be the candidate, I wrote this blog post that American designers were welcome to Sweden, and I still stand by that. If you have any, great designers, if you want to escape US for now, you're welcome to come to Sweden.
Well, the conversation still comes up at my house. I will tell you that. So you might, one of these days, you might find me and Guthrie and, at your doorstep asking not only for potato casserole, but
Hey, but I would move to Sweden regardless of who was president. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah.
You're welcome even after he's been ousted. So.
Hey, Ewan, it's been great talking to you. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.